Hey, good morning, Renewed Church. How you guys doing this morning?
What is up?
Bright and early. We're back at 10 a.m.
Yeah, we are.
The last few weeks, we let people sleep in an extra 10, 12, 15 minutes. We were playing with some stuff, figuring some stuff out. But we're like, you know what? No, people can get up at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, they can.
And turn on the TV.
Why not?
Have you been home for a Sunday morning live stream yet?
Just the one we pre-recorded.
Okay.
So not like the true live stream.
But how nice was it to literally roll out of bed at like 9:57 and be at church? Isn't it the best?
Felt so good.
I know. Some people are like, let's go back into person services, and we will as soon as we possibly can. But also, yeah, you got to pretty good. We're hanging out here at 7 a.m. drinking coffee, grinding.
It's got its pluses and minuses, right?
It's got its pluses and minuses, true.
You don't have to drag your kids out, right, to service. But at the same time, you want your kids to go and hang out with other kids and worship with kids, right? It's like back and forth.
That's true. That is a huge plus, and you would do anything to have your kids do that. I actually did the other day, yesterday. I was like, I need to take my daughter to do something fun because the house is not fun anymore. And so we did something in public at like this indoor play center. And I'm like, yeah, children need this. And I understand people have like 4 kids who are all in that age group. I'm like, man, they desperately need this. And the church was one of those things that they would do every single week to provide kids an opportunity to have fun with one another, to engage other kids socially, to learn about Jesus and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of been one of the things that people have missed the most. Families have.
Kids not only engage but engage with kids that kind of, have the same belief structure, system. All that is very important.
Yeah, man. Speaking of Renew Kids.
What?
Speaking of Renew Kids, today is a cool Sunday.
Why is it a cool Sunday?
Well, today is the launch of our official Renew Kids Online program.
Yeah, it is.
Check this out. Renew Kids Online.
Look at that logo.
We're finally able to do a full children's programming for our Renew Kids family, which is so cool. And I know some of you out there are like, is Eric going to dress up like a weirdo and sing a silly song? No, he's not.
Sorry about that.
But it's actually going to be way better than that.
I hope it is.
People loved that, but also like there wasn't a whole lot of substance there. It was really just like, here, we'll do some monkey tricks for 3 minutes just so your kids think we're cool.
I really hope Eric's watching this right now.
Yeah, he probably is. We all know he is.
A week after he's left, we're already knocking the substance level of stuff.
Well, we were
Just
a part
kidding.
of that.
We
were a
you,
part
Eric.
of that. Yeah, the most spiritual part was his dancing unto the Lord on a weekly basis.
Amen. I was making a joyful move.
But that whole thing was totally unsustainable. It was like week 3 we tried it. We're like, we're out of ideas because we're not wired for this.
Yeah.
But we do have people in our church who are wired for this and who do this so well and excellently. They've been teaching kids for a long time. They've been engaging kids for a long time. And we're like, we need to get this done for the kids. They need this. So today is the official launch of the Renew Kids online program. Wade, why don't you tell people, first of all, what the Renew Kids online program is going to kind of look like generally. And then after that, we'll give them some details of what they need to know in order to get connected with it.
Yeah, so basically we're going to create a video every week that we will premiere on Sunday mornings around the 10:15 time, so during the pre-show, so you can get your kids set up to view the kids program during the pre-show, and then also it won't be distracting from you having to attend to them or help them out during the service. So you could actually still watch the service as well. But it'll be anywhere from a 15 to 20 minute video where we'll use the orange curriculum that we use at all of our campuses from preschool all the way up through high school. We use a curriculum. We partner with them. And so we're going to use specifically the elementary curriculum. So the curriculum that they produce that is from grade 1 to grade 5. So we're going to be producing a lot of programming around that. And then we're also going to be letting you know the links for some of the preschool program as well, so you can still have that for the preschool kids. But the videos we produce on Sundays will be hovered around the grade 1 to grade 5 curriculum. And we'll have Anna, my wife, and Liam Amaral, our intern for kids. Right. And then various Sunday school teachers will be calling in to kind of help out with that. And so it'll look a little different every week, but you'll get the Bible story, you'll get some memory verse stuff, you'll get the kids worship together, you'll get some fun stuff with Liam and our other intern, Nathan, doing some stuff for you guys. So it'll be good.
I'm excited about it. I think kids of all ages are going to be able to engage with this. It's going to be way more interesting than listening to us talk and watching a 30-minute sermon for sure. And the cool thing is we've structured it in such a way that the kids can be doing this at the same time as you're engaging with the pre-service and kind of the beginning of the service. So what's the timing look like? What should parents expect in order to set their kids up and get them rolling, and the time frame on it? Like, what's all that look like, and how's that all work for them this morning if they're not sure yet?
Yeah, so this morning the service will be premiering at 10:15 a.m. on our YouTube channel. But if you just go to renewchurch.ca/renewkids and go there for everything that we're going to be doing for kids, and you'll be able to find that premiere for the YouTube. So it'll premiere on our same YouTube channel that we do the live stream from and stuff. And like I said, it'll usually be around 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes video that will happen during the pre-service, and it'll premiere every Sunday during the pre-service. And so you'll want to get them set up on a separate device than what you're watching the service on, and something that you can. Or
if you're a child at heart, you can just watch with them and ignore us for 20 minutes.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I mean, that's what I would be doing.
Yeah,
I'm into it.
I'd rather watch Anna and Liam than me and you.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Seriously. We just lost our whole audience. Sorry. So go on. So they're going to do this mostly during the pre-service.
Yeah.
They're going to watch it, set their kids up on a separate device. They can have multiple devices going at the same time. Hopefully your bandwidth can carry multiple devices at home at the same time. And so your kids can be doing that and being fed there and being engaged there. And then you can also be engaged with us on the pre-service and just dialogue with us, engage with us. We're going to have a whole bunch of interesting stuff coming up for pre-service segments and people on the show and stuff like that. So hopefully the family will be doing this together, and then it'll end, the kids' thing will end, and they'll be able to do what?
Yeah, it'll end right when the service is starting. So you'll be able to just either, if your whole family engages in the live service that happens here every Sunday at 10:30, or if you have smaller children and you distract them with something else so that you can participate in worship and the teaching time here on Sunday mornings. Either way, it'll be over for that.
So it launches at 10:15. We said it premieres at 10:15.
Yeah.
Does every parent have to get on right at 10:15 in order to start it, or if it works better for another family to do it after the service or in the middle of the service somewhere, like what are the options there? Do they have to be on at 10:15?
Yeah, no.
Is that preferable? Can they just start at any time? So it's basically after 10:15, it's wide open?
It's on demand.
On demand.
Are the words we like to use.
So they can even watch it Monday.
In the business.
Or Tuesday?
They can watch it Wednesday if they want to. It's crazy. Mind blown. Yeah, but don't. You should watch it on Sunday. But if you can't, then yes, it'll live on YouTube. So it'll premiere at 10:15, but then it will live on demand on our YouTube channel.
But I am getting a pro tip right now. It will premiere at 10:15, and you won't be able to press play while it's going live in the premiere. So if you do want to watch it in the pre-service, you have to get in at 10:15, right? And then after that, once it's done, you can start at any time.
You can't rewind it?
I don't know how these things work.
Because you can rewind the live stream.
I'm being told you may not be able to rewind it. So for today, we're saying, hey, get your stuff set up as soon as possible. And in just a little bit, we'll give you a 2-minute break to get everything set up.
Yes.
But we're saying get right on at 10:15, start it while it goes live, get it all set up, and then you'll be able to watch it live. That way you don't have to worry about being on too late and then not being able to start it.
Yeah, and it's built to be flexible.
Yep.
So we're doing during the pre-service. So for those of you that have smaller children, younger children, you can do what you need to do to get them set up and to engage with them. But if you if your children are all saints, or you have some older children and they can actually watch it while you do church at 10:30, then sure, why not? You can wait and you can allow them to engage in that while you're engaging in worship and the teaching time during the service. So it's kind of flexible to the family and what your needs are.
So let me ask you, Wade, you're a campus pastor. Why is it important that we are putting all this energy and time into providing kids with video programming on top of the stuff that we're doing and on top of the stuff that's just available on the internet? Why is it important that we're doing it? Why do you think it's important that we're doing this?
Because kids need discipleship. And we believe that the first line of discipleship with children are their parents. Mm-hmm. But as a church, as a collective family, we want to be able to provide tools for the parents to be able to do that at home, especially during the season where they're not coming to church and they're not interacting and having that every week, every Sunday school experience, which is hugely important for kids. We want to be able to provide the tools for parents to use with their kids for discipleship at home and some engaging stuff, because there's all kinds kinds of content out there that you can find on your own, all kinds of great content. And like I said, we partner with the Orange curriculum, so some of the content like you'll see today, we didn't create, but it's something that we use, and our Sunday school teachers in the classes, they modify it and use it in different ways at the different campuses to meet the needs of all of our kids. But there's the personal touch of actually your family, your church family, actually your kids seeing their Sunday school teachers and being connected to the people who have been investing in them on a week-to-week basis up until this point, which makes a difference, right?
For sure, because it's not just content, it's also the relationship that they have, right? And we believe that the combination of good content, i.e. good teaching, coupled with real relationship is actually the most effective way to disciple people. Yeah. And so that's what we're trying to model with our kids program here. Definitely. And I'm excited about it. Real quick, if I'm a parent, what can I do to help with what comes after the service or whatever we watch? Like, what is there for me to help continue the discipleship journey as a parent at home connected to this, and where do I find that?
Yeah, so everything at renewchurch.ca/renewkids. And so we're going to be releasing the parent take-home that Orange produces along with the curriculum that you can download and has some tips and stuff for you to do. But then also you can download the Parent Q app on your phone and follow along with there. And then from our end, partnering with them, we're actually going to be creating some resources that we're going to be producing throughout the middle of the week. So we'll have a fun video that will be kind of launched during the middle of the week that will illustrate the teaching time that will be done for you guys. And then also we're going to be creating a closed group, most likely on Facebook. That'll be private. It'll be locked, so it'll be secure for you and your kids to interact with the community of people here at Renew. And we're going to be doing some fun stuff with that, maybe some contests to kind of post in there and provide some parent tips in there and just different things to kind of keep highlighting the teaching throughout the week.
Yeah, this is really great. I'm excited about this. This is something our church has needed for a little while in this season, and we're putting a lot into it. We're excited about it. It's going to be great. And we got some people working on it. We're going to continue to adjust things to make things as good and as accessible as possible. But everything is found at renewchurch.ca/renew-kids. So all the information that you hear from Wade is there. It's available to you now. You should go over there actually now if you can, because we're going to premiere the first teaching for this Sunday at 10:15 in just a few moments. So what we're going to do in just a minute is we're going to go to a 2-minute break, and you'll see it, and we'll have the link up there so you know where to go. It'll give you 2 minutes to get your kids set up on their own device. And then after that, we're going to continue with our pre-service, and we're going to actually interview Jake Troughton to talk about the MVRK Youth program and how we're working on discipling and engaging our youth at Renew Church. So we're going to get to that just after this 2-minute break to help you get set up with your Renew kids at home. So give us a moment here, get your kids set up, and we'll see you back here in just a couple minutes. Well, welcome back. For those of you who have kids and you're trying to get them connected to Renew Kids, I hope that you were able to connect all that. This is the first time we're running it, so we're figuring things out. If there's any issues, just let us know in the live stream, comment somewhere, or send us an email, and we'll try to address those as soon as we can so that you guys can get your kids connected to the Renew Kids programming. Something that we are a part of also at Renew Church, and something that we actually run at Renew Church and have for many years, is a youth program, an excellent youth program made up of some amazing leaders. And we are launching that. Well, we already launched that.
Yeah, that was last Tuesday.
It's called MVRK Youth.
MVRK.
And this right here is my friend Jake Troughton. And he is the leader and director of MVRK Youth in this season. And so, Jake, welcome to the pre-service live stream.
Thank you.
This next segment is really about youth at Renew and what you need to know to get your kids connected and what we're all about. So, Jake, this is your chance. You got like 10 minutes to sell everybody who's watching. What is MVRK Youth?
MVRK Youth. MVRK Youth. What is our MVRK Youth? First off, what's going on, guys? My name is Jake, as he was saying. MVRK Youth is a community of young people, of students that come together on a weekly basis and other times throughout the month, like on Fridays and stuff like that, that are refining each other, refining themselves, trying to become a more key part in their communities.
That's good. And why is it called MVRK Youth? This is the youth program at Renew Church. So it's really Renew Church's youth group. But why do we call it MVRK Youth?
So Maverick is obviously you guys know what Maverick means. But
do they?
Yeah, I mean you
What's
should. If you don't, Maverick is somebody who does something different. So one of our key taglines is "Be different to make a difference." So the whole idea is, I don't know who came up with that, but. The whole idea is to not do things the way other people do them, not do things the way other students do them. When you see people doing regular, everyday things, hanging out at home, playing video games, doing stuff like that, to not do that, but actually go out of your way to try and help people, to try and make other people's days better, to put ourselves second and other people first.
That's good.
That's the whole idea of being a Maverick.
So what's the vision of MVRK Youth? Is that the vision? What's the vision? Do you have like a vision statement or something like that?
Yeah, we do, actually. It's build transformative community. The whole idea is to continue to build ourselves up, to continue to build your students up so they can go out into the community and transform it through themselves. That's the whole idea.
That's good. Yeah, and the process of that, we believe at MVRK Youth, is actually when Jesus changes you from the inside out and transforms you, you actually can be an agent of change in the community around you, right? If Jake becomes a more loving person and Jesus does a work in his life and the fruit of the Spirit start to be evident through his life, then all of a sudden he actually starts making a real difference in the world around him. So,
absolutely. Yeah, that's the whole idea. It's not actually like, a lot of people think it's going out into communities and transforming them, but it's not. It's actually transforming yourself first through the Holy Spirit, through loving Jesus, through understanding the Bible better, through understanding God better, and then transforming communities through yourself and building a community around you that transforms a bigger community.
Yeah. So we love MVRK Youth. MVRK Youth is great. I want to give a shout out to Jake. Jake got thrown into this leading MVRK Youth thing, and then COVID hit. And there was other leaders. I was leading it for quite a few years before that, and we never went through a COVID thing. And then all of a sudden, we're like, here, Jake, lead the youth group. And then COVID hit, and none of us knew what to do. And no youth leader who's been leading for hundreds of years or a year or half a year really even knew what to do with it. So you guys have done an excellent job trying to adapt. And I know it's not easy, and I know it's hard, but you have tried your best. You are continuing to iterate. You are continuing to try. You're continuing to try and engage students. And just so you know, every youth group is struggling with this. We're all figuring out how do we engage students in this season when we're not allowed to just like invite them over to have a great time in a big group of people. And so why don't you help everybody understand what the plan is for this fall, and everybody else can know that the plan is constantly changing and moving based on what protocols are changed and what the government says. So right now, what does MVRK Youth look like for those who are trying to get engaged? Yeah,
this has been a bit of a weird time. I mean, I Googled it, and there's no real COVID protocol for youth groups. I Googled that right away, and there's no pandemic protocol, which kind of sucked because that would have helped a lot. But so we've been doing this online thing for the last little while. We started with live streams, and we went to Zoom, and we had this great plan to go back into in-person meetings. And then 4 days before our parents' meeting, we got thrown another curveball and had to change everything over again. So we're on Zoom right now. We're doing Zoom calls. We're doing kind of something similar to this, where we're doing a pre-service, and then we're doing the service. and then our post-services small groups. That's the idea for October, and then in November we're going to have a new idea. We've chosen the idea. We're going to do in-person small groups. We're just going to refine that idea, present it to the parents who are all watching, and the ones that aren't watching, but hopefully they should be. Present it to you guys, really refine it, and there'll be no holes in this plan. There will be, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I've talked to a lot of leaders of youth everywhere, and they're all struggling with this.
Totally.
Same thing.
And it doesn't help and this is not anybody's fault, but it doesn't help when you make a plan and you want to launch it, and then all of a sudden it's like 3 days later, Doug Ford says you can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's not his fault. That's nobody's fault. It's just the reality of the circumstance that we're in. So we're all trying to figure it out. There's holes in everybody's plan, but we're trying our best, and we're using the resources that we have to do the best job possible. And these guys are really trying to do that. Now, I want to talk to a few parents out there or people who are connected to students, or even students if you're watching. I might be at home asking the question, okay, I've tuned into the Zoom calls, and you know what? Or my kid has tuned into the Zoom calls, and you know what? They actually just have more fun playing Fortnite or reading Stephanie Meyer books. Yeah. Why should I continue to fight with them to engage these Zoom calls that are probably less entertaining than Fortnite or reading a great teenage novel? Why should they do that? And what would you say to those parents and those students who are feeling like, Zoom?
It is one of those things that it's hard to say, hey, why don't you come join and stare at me talking to your students for 45 minutes. It's hard to say that, but the alternative is literally there's nothing. There is no alternative to this right now. Our community is online because we don't have a choice. If we had a choice, we'd take your students every Tuesday. We take your students every day and hang out with them, but we don't have that choice. A lot of it, you see all throughout the Bible, Galatians and James, you see all of this. It's enduring this. It's in persevering these hard times. It's struggling through it together. If you do it alone, it sucks even more. But if you do it as a community, if you struggle as a community, it actually builds people up. It creates that community. It creates communitas. It's one of those beautiful things, and it sucks. It sucks so bad during it. But if you continue to accept that, continue to live through it, continue to persevere through it, it actually builds community better than anything. Any sort of community building exercise, if you're going to really struggle through something as a community, that builds friendships, that builds camaraderie more than anything.
And I've been doing youth group for a long time. I've been doing youth ministry for over 11 years. Yeah. And no matter what the season is, what tends to happen is older students start to find cooler things to engage with, especially than a Zoom call, right? Yeah. That's the reality. And what I've seen is a distinct difference between students who continue to show up, even when it's not the coolest thing they could be doing, and continue to engage in community, even when there's more fun things to do in your later years in high school. And there's a distinct difference in the maturity, the spiritual maturity, the faith, and just the personal maturity of these students when they choose to do that over more fun things. So it's not that different in this season. If your kids are putting up a fight, if you're putting a fight up with your parents at home, like, look, here's the reality. You just need to trust that this is good for you, that it's wise, that it's going to help you in the long run. It'll teach you certain disciplines that'll help you as an adult. Yeah. And if you do engage and you do pay attention, there is wisdom to be learned that will help you in your walk with Jesus for the rest of your life if you allow yourself to be present and if you allow yourself to be open and listen and hear. These guys are working hard at teaching helpful and engaging stuff that is meant to help you. And I know from my experience as someone who's later in his 20s and went through the youth years and the young adult years that if I had taken some of the stuff that they're teaching and applied it then, my life would be much better. I would have much stronger faith. I'd be able to make a much bigger impact and build transformative community.
Absolutely.
And so we're saying, look, fight for it. It's worth fighting for. Speaking of things to teach, what are you guys teaching on in this season, and why is that interesting?
Actually, we're teaching on, it's kind of like hermeneutics. We did a series on it last year. That was pretty interesting.
People don't know what that means.
So, hermeneutics is the way you read your Bible and the things that are in your Bible, the way it's like built. It's all everything to do with that kind of stuff.
Basically, how to interpret it correctly or well.
Yeah. And so if you read something like, he took 300 foxes and lit them on fire and then sent them into a village, you would think, oh, it's in the Bible, I should do that. And there's some kids that live by those rules. They just kind of do whatever crazy things they see in the Bible. But if you understand it and you can interpret it properly, then things like that seem a little less weird and crazy and insane. So we're doing studies on that. It's called Explained, where we are going through how to read your Bible properly. So this week we're talking about how you. Oh, I've just lost it.
What'd
it
you
was
talk
right
about
on the
last
tip of my tongue. Last week we talked it was kind of an intro to the series. So we talked about what we were teaching, and we talked about how to interpret your Bible properly.
And you were telling me you're leading a small group. Jake's leading the senior high boys small group, and you had a bunch of small group questions that were asked of you of teenagers.
Yeah.
And now Jake has to do a whole bunch of homework this week and figure out the answers to these questions. What
I've
are some
got-
of those questions that
I've
have
got a
been asked?
couple
Just
here.
so you have an idea of
Really
the
soft
types
stuff.
of things that students are thinking of and the types of questions that they're free to ask and engage leaders with.
Yeah, these are questions. I mean, youth group is one of those things that if you've been there for a while, you know it's a free place to ask any questions to feel safe. And they felt really, really safe because they gave me a few hard questions.
Yeah, let's hear some.
So the first one I got was, when will I know God is responding to my questions? If I have an internal and infinitely perfect, or if heaven is eternal and infinitely perfect, what will it be like? And will we be able to rebel?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. Do you know the answer?
I will.
Yo, hopefully. Yeah.
Another
Give me
one.
another one. Give me
Another
one more.
one was, what happened before creation? And more specifically, what was God doing?
Great question.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And look, if you don't know the answer to those questions, you got a youth leader who's going to handle that for you so you don't even have to worry about it and think about it. I'm kidding. You should be caring about those questions because your kids are asking them, and the best place to engage their faith is at home, but also in the context of a broader community and local church. And so that's why we do MVRK Youth the way we do it. That's why we have guys like Jake who are giving up so much in his life to commit to serve the students in discipleship and grow them into becoming more like Jesus so that they can also then turn around and see the communities around them transformed for the sake of the gospel. So thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for promoting that. If you need any more information, you can just go on over to the website, renewchurch.ca/maverick-youth, and you can get everything you need there. Contact this guy for anything. He will take any email. He will respond as soon as he can because he really cares about engaging students with Jesus. Thanks for joining us this morning on the pre-service. Enjoy the Renew Kids programming if you're already tuned into that, and we look forward to having a good service today with you guys. We'll see you in just a moment.
Thanks, guys.
Good morning, Renew Church. Welcome to our Sunday morning live stream. Thanks for being with us. As always, before we jump into some worship, we just have a few announcements that we want to run through to make you guys aware of what's going on in the life of the church during the season. The first one of those is that, hey, we had a great big night out a few weeks ago on Sunday, and then we had 2 services, 4 and 6 p.m. We're going to be doing another one of those coming up October 18th at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Again, 2 services. We're going to be releasing a link for you guys to sign up for one of those services very soon, but put that in your calendar. I know I've been hearing a lot of positive things from the people that did attend one of those 2 services, and so I encourage you that if you didn't get to make it out to the last one, that you would kind of sign up to come to this next one on October 18th. Either signing up for the 4 o'clock service or the 6 o'clock service. Again, it's a completely safe environment. We take all the precautions necessary, and it's just really good to be back with our church family in whatever capacity that we can. So be looking forward to that. Put it on your calendar. Big night out, October 18th, 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. The next thing is MVRK Youth has launched. We are up and running. So for right now during this season, there will be Tuesday night Zoom calls for youth, and then now mixed in will be different small group events in person. And if you need any information about that, please email jake@renewchurch.ca, and you'll get connected to all the information you need for either Tuesday nights or for any of the events happening with youth group. The next thing is, if you were watching the pre-show this morning, or you're paying attention to any of our social media, you'll know that we launched Renew Kids. And so we've been kind of working on, hey, how do we actually minister to our children during the season where we have to do a bunch of online stuff and we're not able to meet a lot in person. So we came up with Renew Kids Online. We're launching a special service during the pre-service every Sunday for your kids, and you can find all the information for that at renewchurch.ca/renewkids. You'll get the links for the videos that happen on Sunday, and then any other information about groups that we're creating or any content that we're going to be providing during the week for that. So I encourage you to go there and pay attention to everything that we're doing for Renew Kids. The next thing is, hey, our first Wednesday service is coming up this coming Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So as you know, that we've decided to do a live stream every first Wednesday of the month, where it's going to be worship, communion, teaching time. We're actually going to launch the teaching time that we're going to use in our Renew groups for the rest of that month every first Wednesday. So I encourage you to put that on your calendars. Invite your Renew groups to watch along with you. Invite your friends and family. Get prepared to participate in communion with your church family, even if it's over the interwebs. Excuse me. That's awkward. So you get together with for worship and for teaching and for communion, and it's going to be 8 o'clock every first Wednesday. Look for the live stream and invite people to participate along with you. If you're still looking for a way to give during the season, you can give at renewchurch.ca. We would appreciate your participation in giving during the season. Now, I'm going to pray, and then we're going to start off with some worship. God, thank you for today. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for this season that we get to be together through this technology, even if we have to be apart. God, would you prepare our hearts for worship? Would you just move in us through your Spirit and through your word? May we be able to kind of just throw everything off that's distracting us and be able to focus on you and what you have for us. We love you. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
He's coming on the clouds. He's coming on the clouds. Kings and kingdoms will bow down. And every chain will break as broken hearts declare his praise. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. So open up the gates, make way before the King of Kings. The God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. Sing it together. Who can stop the Lord? Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? 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 Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. Hey!
Welcome to week 3 of The Crown. This morning's scripture reading is from 1 Samuel chapter 8, and the Israelites are going to request a king from Yahweh. Please read along with me. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel's leaders. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abijah, and they served at Beersheba. But his sons did not follow his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribes and perverted justice. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all other nations have." But when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel, so he prayed to the Lord. And the Lord told him, "Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king, as they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are doing to you. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly, and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his rights." Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking for a king. He said, "This is what the king who will reign over you will claim as his rights. He will take your sons and make them serve with his chariots and horses, and they will run in front of his chariots. Some he will assign to be commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and others to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and still others to make weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his attendants. He will take a tenth of your grain and of your vintage and give it to his officials and attendants. Your male and female servants and the best of your cattle and donkeys he will take for his own use. He will take a tenth of your flocks, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When that day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king you have chosen, but the Lord will not answer you in that day." But the people refused to listen to Samuel. "No," they said, "we want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles." When Samuel heard all that the people had said, he repeated it before the Lord, and the Lord answered, "Listen to them and give them a king." Then Samuel said to the Israelites, "Everyone go back to your own town."
Hello, Renewed Church. It's so good to see you this morning. I'm so glad that you're tuning in with us today and not with Stephen Furtick, who recent polls show is not as good looking as me and is actually an inch shorter. Those are very internal polls that we've done. Anyway, seriously, glad that you're joining us here this morning. We're back at The Crown, which is a journey through 1st and 2nd Samuel. We aren't reading through every verse, but we are keeping the storyline, and we are pulling out some really, really good lessons as we go through the text. Now, I've heard a number of people say that they really love these two books, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and actually some people were saying how much they enjoyed hearing about the glory of God last week as we looked at the Ark of the Covenant in last week's story. We are encouraging all of you to really dig into these chapters on your own as we go through. We recognize that we're moving through at quite a pace, so please do take the time to go back and read through these stories. There is so much good stuff to pull out of them. We're going to start today with chapter 8, where Israel asks for a king. And as you just heard in Pastor Mitch's scripture reading, Israel really wants a king. And the events leading up to this desire are actually quite interesting when you look at the text. You may have noticed as Mitch was reading, it says that Samuel was getting older and that he had 2 sons. And just like Eli's sons, Samuel's sons were scoundrels as well. We thought this was quite a thing that Eli had these 2 sons that were so terrible as priests. Well, now Eli has the same thing. Not only is this an embarrassment to Samuel, who is the man of God, but it becomes the basis by which the Israelites ask for this king. They say, "We don't want your sons leading us when you're gone." And so they actually leveraged that and used it against Samuel as they asked for a king. The writer of this book is driving home a point, that just because someone is a man of God or God's chosen prophet, you know what? It doesn't mean that you're actually keeping God's law yourself, that you're following the directives that God gave through Moses. You know, every prophet would have known the the law almost by heart. And so they would have known passages like the Shema that are in Deuteronomy chapter 6, where the Israelites are charged before God to lead their families in the way that they're supposed to lead them. Look at what it says in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 and 7. Moses said, "These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up." He said, guys, leading your family is supposed to be something that you prioritize. It's a way of life that you live. And guys, I want to take this opportunity, because it comes up naturally here in this text, to challenge every one of you who are parents at Renew. You know, this COVID era has presented us with some challenges, but you know what? Sometimes it is a good thing. And some of you parents are realizing that you feel ill-equipped to lead your own children in their spiritual development as you go through this time. We leaders here at Renew are very motivated to help you. We've been talking a lot about this. We really want to help you and give you tools to be able to lead your own children well in their spiritual development. And we are recognizing that, you know, you shouldn't be dependent on church leaders or Sunday school teachers. Obviously, we're here to help when we can, but this job is yours, and we want to remind you that that's your responsibility to raise your kids in a godly way. It's more important than the work that you do, the recreation that you engage in. Your kids are your spiritual legacy, and they're also the legacy of our church and of the kingdom of God. And what we leave behind is really, really important. So good news, if you haven't heard already today, we have launched our Renew Kids online, and so kudos to Anna Reininger and also to Liam Amaral for their work, and also for Lena that joined them this week, for all the teachers that will be participating in that. We are really encouraged to have this program off the ground, and I want to challenge you parents in 3 specific ways as it relates to this. Okay, here they are. First, we really want you to lead your kids in watching the video at 10:15 each week. And so subscribe, go on YouTube, subscribe, get notifications when they're coming in. Be prepared every week to have your kids ready to watch what we're putting together for them. Secondly, make use of the curriculum that is available on the website. There's great curriculum there. You can go there and see it, download it if you need to, or you can just look at it there. But you can make use of that curriculum. We pay for it. It's great curriculum, and you can use that to go deeper and teach those lessons with your children. Third, we want you to take advantage of other online activities that Renew Kids is offering, and you'll be made aware of those as they come up. We will be engaging with your kids more directly in other times and places. So make use of this. I would encourage all of you parents of Maverick teenagers as well to do the same thing. Really engage and see this as your responsibility. We're here to help, but you need to lead them in this. You know, when we don't lead our kids well, there are consequences. And in our story here today, it actually results in the Israelites asking for a king. Now, I want to clarify something right up front. Make note of this. It wasn't actually wrong for the Israelites to ask for a king. A lot of people have kind of been taught that or heard that, but it's actually not the truth. God had actually promised in the past that they would have kings. It was wrong to demand it now in their own timing, and that is what we actually see here in this passage. Not everyone is aware that God actually told Israel, going back as far as Abraham, that he would give Israel kings. You can see this in Genesis chapter 17, chapter 35, also Deuteronomy chapter 17, where this is talked about. But God had just rescued the Israelites in an amazing way under Samuel. We saw that last week. God is not limited. He doesn't need a king to do his bidding. And he was pleased to use Samuel and to intervene and to rescue his people when he needed to. And so there's so many lessons here. The first one I would point out, lesson 1, is, guys, we need to be patient and wait for God's timing on things. Really be patient and wait for his timing. Many things that we desire in life are not actually bad. Many of them are good things. We just need to be more patient. You see, good things at the wrong time equals bad things. That's a little formula that you can run. Good things at the wrong time equal bad things. You know, taking a new TV home from Best Buy is awesome. Doing it when you haven't paid for it is called stealing, right? Sex after marriage is a beautiful and good thing. Sex before marriage, God calls fornication. You see, timing is so important in the things that we do. And one of the greatest exhortations in the Bible is wait on the Lord. And that's tough. We don't like waiting. But timing, guys, is everything. Here's the second lesson I see here. Don't be influenced by everyone else. Be your own person. Better still, be God's person. This is a great lesson, guys. So many people today are living just to get the approval of others, and I think it really is a function of social media. If you haven't seen that Netflix show, The Social Dilemma, you should check it out. You'll get some insight into the power of social media. But as a result of this, we measure what is good today by the approval of other people so often, rather than what God approves of. We need to let God and His Word influence us more than popular opinion. I'm talking about every area of your life, in your beliefs, in your morals, and in your values, in the choice of music that you listen to, the clothing that you wear, who you date, in your career aspirations, your financial dealings, and even your life goals. Guys, we need to know what God thinks is important and not just follow what other people tell us is right or good. Well, find out what God desires and have the courage to stand up for that, and you will be better off in every area of your life. Well, Israel couldn't wait. They were impatient. And Samuel consults God, and God says, you know what, Samuel, give them what they want. Just be sure to warn them about what is coming. And so Samuel does. He takes the time to warn them, but they still say, no, we want a king. They insist. And that leads to our introduction of Saul, which brings us to chapter 9, where Samuel anoints Saul. Now, chapter 9 introduces a man named Kish. He's a Benjamite, and he has a son named Saul, who's very handsome and a head taller than anyone else. Kish loses some donkeys, and so he sends his son Saul with a servant to go roaming the country to try to find those donkeys and to bring them back home. Well, they get to the district of Zuph, which is quite a ways from home, and Saul actually says to his servant, let's go home before Dad starts worrying about us more than the donkeys. They had gone quite a ways, and it was starting to get dark. The servant says, well, there's a seer here in this town. We should check in with him and see what is the best path that we should take to get home. And so they go up to the town, and as they're entering the town, they meet Samuel. Now, God has already told Samuel that day, or the day before, that he would be leading this young man, Saul, into the town, and that he would be coming, and that Samuel was supposed to take him and anoint him to be the next king over Israel. Now note this, guys. I thought this was interesting. God used the donkeys to have Saul and Samuel meet. What random details of your week could God be using to do something amazing? Yes, this is a great question. And this one I really direct at myself. I tend to get so frustrated when things don't go according to my plan. I think so often of my car, right? My car breaking down. It just seems to always happen and at the wrong time. And I have a hard time seeing beyond the money that this is going to cost and all of the hassle that it's going to be. Guys, sometimes we have to back up and get a bigger perspective and say, what could God be doing through this? Maybe this is going to lead me to having an interaction with someone I wouldn't have normally had. Or maybe this is going to create a certain scenario where God could use me in a way if I'm just watching for it and paying attention. And so I want to challenge you in that. God uses the donkeys here to make sure that this very special appointment takes place. Samuel tells Saul that the donkeys have been found and that he is the next leader of Israel. Saul, of course, is very timid. He's in disbelief. But Samuel invites him to a banquet that night where he is going to be the guest of honor. And he goes to this banquet and he eats well and he stays that night at Samuel's house and he rises the next morning to go home. But before he leaves, Samuel asks him just to send his servant on ahead for a second so he can speak privately with Saul. And he anoints him there with oil as the nation's new king. Now, a little side note here. In the Bible, oil is often a picture of the Holy Spirit. And Saul would soon be anointed by the Spirit himself, as we're going to see. But this was a picture as the oil was put on his head that God's Spirit was coming upon him as his leader. So Samuel sends Saul on his way and tells him where he will find the donkeys and that his dad was worrying about him, so to head back home. After that, he was going to meet up with some people in Bethel who would have food for him. And you can see here, Bethel is mentioned here. Then he was going to go to Gibeah, which is down here, and then later to Gilgal, so you can kind of track that on the map. He's going to go to Gibeah of God, a Philistine outpost, and there he's going to meet a procession of priests who are actually going to be playing music and prophesying, and the Spirit of the Lord, Samuel said, is going to come on Saul at that moment. Finally, he would go to Gilgal, and he would wait 7 days for Samuel to arrive so that he could make sacrifices. Well, we look at chapter 10, starting at verse 9. Saul is made king. It says in 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 9, as Saul turned to leave Samuel, God changed Saul's heart, and all these signs were fulfilled that day. So all of these things that Samuel predicted all come true. Now, guys, a little note here about the Holy Spirit. I know that this looks a lot like a conversion experience when you read this verse, that God changed Saul's heart. But the pattern that we see is that the Holy Spirit would come and go in the Old Testament on people, sometimes quite unrelated to the actual spirituality of the person that was involved. I mean, just look at someone like Samson, who was one of the judges. He would do amazing, powerful things when the Spirit of God would come upon him, but he wasn't a spiritual man really at all. When David commits his great sins, he will pray to God not to take his Spirit away from him. We see that in Psalm chapter 51. And so this idea that the Spirit would come on people mightily but then depart was sort of the pattern in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, however, we see a greater commitment of the Holy Spirit to believers. The language in the New Testament says that we are baptized into the Spirit, that we are filled by the Spirit, that He also indwells us, and here's a great word, He seals us as a guarantee for our redemption. And so the indwelling of the Spirit seems to be permanent in the New Testament, whereas the Spirit came and went in the Old Testament. Now, this is not to say that we can't grieve Him today, or that we can't lose out on the Spirit's power as we live out of step with Him. We certainly can. And so this is very serious, even today, that we walk in step with the Spirit. But Saul here actually prophesies along with the prophets when the Spirit of God comes upon him. He didn't actually become a prophet in that moment, but this sporadic event is a confirming sign from God that Saul is God's leader, and he wants everybody to take note that his Spirit is resting upon him. Now take note of this, guys. The use of sign gifts as confirmation of God's plan is consistent with God's use of sign gifts in the early church. When you read the book of Acts, and we're going to have a study coming up on that starting at our first Wednesday in October, we're going to see that God would use these sign gifts as a confirmation that the message that He was giving to His people was from Him and that these were His leaders. And so here everyone notices that Saul has been affected by God. The pattern is the same. Saul then meets with his uncle who is there in Gibeah, who asks, what's going on, what happened? And Saul tells him all about how they found the donkeys, but he doesn't talk to him about all of the king stuff. He doesn't seem to be ready to break that news yet. But Samuel ends up calling another summit at Mizpah, this time to confirm God's choice before the nation. And so everyone in Israel gathers again at Mizpah, and they're going to have this coronation. Now, I got to tell you, it's a pretty odd coronation. And let me kind of highlight a few points here. First of all, Samuel again reminds everybody that this coronation is a marking point of the nation's rejection against God. It's like, wah, wah, kind of Debbie Downer here. We're having this whole coronation service. And once again, Samuel's reminding them, we're doing this because you're being disobedient. Well, secondly, in order to identify who is this next monarch, the first monarch, they draw lots according to tribes, and then clans, and then families, until the lot comes to fall on one individual to reveal who is the man who is going to be king. So this is kind of different. And then when the lot finally falls to Saul, he can't be found. And so they actually have to inquire of the Lord, where is he? So that we can get him out here and crown him king. Well, Saul had actually hidden among the supplies, the text says. He went and just kind of hid away from everything. And so we should take note here that what we see is that Saul is both timid and fearful. And this is going to come into play quite a bit in his reign as we see his life unfold. Well, they find him, they bring him out, and everybody cheers, long live the king. And I don't know if you've been watching it or if you've seen it. I've been watching that show, The Crown, on Netflix, which tracks the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. I can say that this part where they say, long live the king, is one of the only parts that seems to match up with a more modern coronation. But Samuel then explains the rights and duties of kingship before all of the people. And Saul then returns home, accompanied by some valiant men whose hearts, the text says, God has touched. Well, this kind of brings another little note to my mind that I think is noteworthy. You know, when God anoints someone for His work, He always brings people around them. That's been my experience in times in my life when God has said, Bartley, I'm leading you to do this, and I really felt His call. He always brought the people around me that I needed to get the job done. And so that's a really valuable lesson. But the chapter then ends here by noting that some of the men despised Saul, and while everyone else was chanting, long live the king, these guys didn't like him at all and refused to bring gifts to him, as was the custom. And so here's another note, kind of on the other side of that coin. When God anoints someone for his work, yes, he brings people around them, but there will also always be people who bring opposition, right? When God anoints someone, they will always face opposition. And so you have people that are going to support you, but you also have people that are going to work against you. Well, that brings us to chapter 11. Saul here rescues the city of Jabesh. Chapter 11 records Saul's first great exploit that really solidifies his place as king in the minds of the people. He'd already been chosen by God and by Samuel, but now in the minds of the people, this is really going to lock him in as king as far as they were concerned. Now, I need you to remember, positional leadership is really the lowest form of leadership. If you've done any study in leadership, read stuff by John Maxwell or whatever, you'll see that positional leadership is really the lowest form, when someone just kind of gives you that title. But leaders need to earn the respect of those who follow them, and this is really, really important. I want to read from 1 Samuel chapter 11, just so you can hear some of this story. It says, Nahash the Ammonite went up and besieged Jabesh-Gilead. And all the men of Jabesh said to him, make a treaty with us, and we will be subject to you. But Nahash the Amorite replied, I will make a treaty with you only on the condition that I gouge out the right eye of every one of you, and so bring disgrace on all of Israel. The elders of Jabesh said to him, give us 7 days so we can send messengers throughout Israel. If no one comes to rescue us, we will surrender to you. When the messengers came to Gibeah of Saul and reported these terms to the people, they all wept aloud. Just then Saul was returning from the fields behind his oxen, and he asked, what is wrong with the people? Why are they weeping? Then they repeated to him what the men of Jabesh had said. When Saul heard their words, the Spirit of God came upon him in power, and he burned with anger. He took a pair of oxen, cut them into pieces, and sent the pieces by messengers throughout Israel, proclaiming, this is what will be done to the oxen of anyone who does not follow Saul and Samuel. Then the terror of the Lord fell on the people, and they turned out as one man. When Saul mustered them at Bezek, the men of Israel numbered 300,000, and the men of Judah 30,000. They told the messengers who had come, say to the men of Jabesh-Gilead, by the time the sun is hot tomorrow, you will be delivered. When the messengers went and reported this to the men of Jabesh, they were elated. They said to the Ammonites, tomorrow we will surrender to you, and you can do to us whatever seems good to you. The next day, Saul separated his men into 3 divisions during the last watch of the night. They broke into the camp of the Amorites and slaughtered them until the heat of the day. Those who survived were scattered so that no 2 of them were left together. The people then said to Samuel, who was it that asked, shall Saul reign over us? Bring these men out so that we can put them to death. But Saul said, no one shall be put to death today. For this day the Lord has rescued Israel. Then Samuel said to the people, come, let us go to Gilgal, and there reaffirm the kingship. So all the people went to Gilgal and confirmed Saul as king in the presence of the Lord. There they sacrificed fellowship offerings before the Lord, and Saul and all of the Israelites held a great celebration. Well, this is a great story. Ammon is the region east of the Jordan River. This is a longtime enemy of Israel. And Jabesh-Gilead is right there along the Jordan River. It's part of Israel. Saul is actually a Benjamite whose history likely came from Jabesh-Gilead. If you go back and check out chapters 19 to 21 of Judges, you will see the story of how the women from this area were actually given to the Benjamites after that tribe was almost wiped out. It's quite a crazy story. But all of this is to say that Saul probably had a soft place in his heart for this town of Jabesh-Gilead. And this might have been really personal for him. Nahash, the Ammonite, is so confident that he makes this cocky treaty to allow the people of Jabesh-Gilead 7 days to go see if they could find help before he's going to gouge one of their eyes out, each of them, and make them basically his slaves. But when the messengers come to Saul, he's overcome by holy rage, and he sends a very visual encouragement for everyone to show up and fight. And 330,000 men from all over Israel and Judah turn out. The men of Jabesh buy enough time with Nahash to have the troops arrive before the morning while it's still dark, and they slaughter the Ammonites in a great slaughter. And the Israelites are suddenly all fans of King Saul. Saul even refuses to kill his detractors that day and earns even more respect. And most importantly, he gives glory to Yahweh, the Lord, for the victory. Well, Samuel sees this and he capitalizes on that moment, invites everyone to Gilgal to renew or reaffirm the kingship. This may have been the 1-year anniversary of Saul's coronation, we're not sure, but they offer a sacrifice there and they have a huge, huge celebration. What a great day for Saul. Well, there's a couple of lessons here I want to pull out. First of all, is that God is able to make us brave. Don't ever forget this, guys. In many times and places in our lives, we lack courage to do what is good and what is right. And when the Spirit of God came over Saul, you notice there in that passage, it says he became courageous. And God's Spirit can do that for us. So never forget that God is able to give us that strength. The second lesson is that you can make the most of a bad situation. I'd like you to think for a second, what was it really like for Saul, this guy who's chosen as king, and everything that's being said by Samuel the prophet around all of this is that this is a mistake. The nation shouldn't be having a king. This is disobedience and rebellion against God. And Saul is hearing all of this, and he's hearing that he is the king. He basically knows that he kind of represents, he's the symbol for Israel's rebellion as king. So have you ever found yourself in that kind of a situation? It's just sort of an unwinnable situation. Maybe the cards that you were dealt made things hard for you from the get-go. I know many people that have kind of been dealt really bad cards in their life. Maybe you grew up in foster care, or maybe you're that stepdad who is trying to be a parent to kids that you didn't give birth to, and you're just like, oh, this is so difficult for me. Maybe you were born into a single-parent home and didn't have some of the advantages of dual-parent homes. Maybe you suffered abuse as a child. I don't know what your situation is, but I want you to remember, God is gracious, and He understands your situation. He knows the cards that you've been dealt in your life and the disadvantages that you've had. But listen, He still expects you to make the most of your situation. He does. You don't get an excuse, right? You don't get a free pass. You still are supposed to make the most of your situation. Remember this, guys. God won't judge you on what you can't do, but He will judge you on what you can do. He will. And so we need to be aware of this. And so let me ask you, are you making the most of your situation? It's a waste of time just to complain and to mope about the hand that you've been dealt. Do the best with the hand that you've been dealt, and God will be pleased with you. This brings us to chapter 12, and this is Samuel's farewell speech. Chapter 12 is actually significant because it marks the end of Samuel's rule over Israel. Now remember, Samuel, as the prophet, represented God. He was called a judge. He was also kind of the political leader at that point, as well as the spiritual leader of Israel. But now that a king has been installed, the king is going to become Israel's representative. This is what we've known all along. And Samuel is not going to be that representative anymore. And so he makes a very public farewell. He wants it to be very clear, and he wants to tie a bow on this very neatly. So he gets all of Israel to affirm that he has done nothing inappropriate during his time as ruler, that he has treated all of them fairly and with integrity. And all of Israel agrees, and they all swear it out loud before God. One more time, Samuel reminds them that their timing in demanding a king is displeasing to God. He makes sure that he brings that up at every occasion. But he also reminds them that if they obey God, and if their king obeys God as well, that things will go well for the nation. Well, then as a final sign of warning, he calls on the Lord, who sends down thunder and rain during the wheat season. It never happened during that time. And so this was a real sign again from God, and people were terrified as they saw this thunder and rainstorm happening during such an odd time of year. And they're all terrified. Look at what it says in verse 19 of this chapter. The people all said to Samuel, "Pray to the Lord your God for your servants so that we will not die. For we have added to all our other sins the evil of asking for a king." They recognize finally, this was wrong for us to do. But look at Samuel's response, and I want you to see it here. I'm going to read it starting at verse 20 in chapter 12. "Do not be afraid," Samuel replied. "You have done all this evil, yet do not turn away from the Lord, but serve the Lord with all your heart. Do not turn away after useless idols. They can do you no good, nor can they rescue you, because they are useless. For the sake of this great name of the Lord, for the sake of His great name, the Lord will not reject His people, because the Lord was pleased to make you His own. As for me, Far be it from me that I should sin against the Lord by failing to pray for you. And I will teach you the way that is good and right. But be sure to fear the Lord and serve him faithfully with all of your heart. Consider the great things that he has done for you. Yet if you persist in doing evil, both you and your king will be swept away. Guys, I have one more big lesson for you today that I want to leave you with. I just finished teaching how sometimes we need to make the most of a bad situation, something that we had no control over. But sometimes, guys, the truth is that the situation that we find ourselves in is a mess because of our own failings. And sometimes we just have to acknowledge this. Let me tell you a little story. I knew a youth leader many years ago who left the church I was in for another woman that was not his wife in our church. It was a really devastating time. I met with him before he made his decision to leave his wife and to pursue this new relationship. And I sat down with him and said, listen, you need to understand the gravity of this decision that you're about to make and what this is going to do. I knew that he had a passion to be a youth leader. And I said, listen, this is going to destroy this opportunity that you have to serve God in this way. You are making a decision that is going to basically limit what God is going to be able to do with you and through you. Well, he went ahead anyway, and he left his wife, and he married this woman. After some time, I heard that he was at another church, and so I decided, you know what, I should meet with him again. And so I met with him, and as I sat down with him, I told him, I said, the decisions that we make in our lives, they do put limits on our potential of what God could potentially do through us, but God is a redeemer, and he does still want to use your life if you will choose to serve him. And I hoped that he had been humbled, but I also wanted him to feel free to move forward and to serve God with the days that he had in front of him. And so I told him that even though he made that decision many months ago and that it was the wrong decision, I would pray for him, and that I would pray specifically that God would still use him. And guys, God really, used that time in my life to see that there's a time where you have to be firm with people and hold them to what God is saying. This is what Samuel tried to do so many times. But then after people make their bad decisions, you know what? They've made their decisions. And sometimes you have to try to encourage them just to move forward after that. So here's a lesson that I'll leave you with today. Our sin puts limits on our potential, but God is always willing to use us if we will just change our hearts. Guys, don't take a bad situation and make it worse. Don't take a mistake that you've made and then continue to make it worse and continue down a bad path. If you've made mistakes, ask for forgiveness, make good decisions, and move on. Sometimes we have to acknowledge that we've scrambled the egg to the point that it cannot be unscrambled. We learn about that in seminary because, we've been taught to counsel and to try to fix situations. Sometimes the egg gets so scrambled you can't unscramble it, and so you just need to kind of forget what's behind and move forward. And you know what? Most of us have these kind of situations somewhere in our life. So we need to get our heart in the right place, focus on the future, and start making good decisions. Well, guys, you probably never thought that these 3,000-year-old stories that we're looking at would be so relevant for today. But guys, the human condition really hasn't changed, has it? So what's going to happen with Saul's life? Is he going to continue on a good path? What is going to happen with the nation of Israel? Come back next week, and we'll continue the story.
Thank you, Bartley, for these words. As I was prepping the songs this week, just thinking of what to sing, and these next two songs that we have really kind of made me think and reflect on some of the stuff that's happened with our dear brothers and sister Josh and Kayla, and the tragedy they've gone through, and just as a church, the importance to keep praying for them, lifting them up to God, and singing and declaring. They've been a huge encouragement just in how they've even responded to this despite the tragedy, to truly trust God in it all. And so these songs kind of, I was thinking of them as I was picking them and to sing them and sing these truths whenever stuff hits us hard in life like that. That's when these words, our faith becomes a real at a next level of really engaging with these truths that we sing. So let's sing together, Alive in You. fire. I'm alive in you.
It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives within me. Christ who lives within me. From beginning to the end, you deserve the glory. You deserve the glory.
It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives within me. Christ who lives within me. From beginning to the end, you deserve the glory. You deserve the glory. 'Cause you are strong, you're the great I am. Breath of life, I breathe you in. Even in the fire, I'm alive in you. And you are strong in my brokenness, sovereign over every step. Even in the fire, I'm alive, 'cause you are God, you're the great I am. Breath of life, I breathe you in. I'm alive in you, and you are strong in my brokenness, sovereign over every step. Even in the fire, I'm alive in you. God, we thank you this morning for the awesome privilege that we have to sing these words to you, to lift up our voices as a church community here in the studio, and all the families of people watching with us, worshiping with us, lifting up your name, God. I just ask for our faith, God, to be challenged, and whenever we sing these songs, and whatever it is that we are going through, big or small, God, that we can truly bring these truths that we read from your words, God, to us, and fully believe them, and fully know that this is what you have, that you are in control, you are the sovereign God, the creator of the universe. And these things you're not taken up by surprise with this, God. You're in control of everything. And we need to just lay it down at your feet and believe you and trust you that you have our best interest. I count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. And yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley, and yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy glorify the name of all names. And nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy for all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will.
Thanks, worship team. As I was thinking about what Bartley was saying, something really hit me was the comment about not letting one decision kind of keep messing you up,
Yeah.
kind of idea, right? And this thing is, I know for myself at times, and for a lot of us, sometimes we do something that's against God, and then we don't think we can come back from it, right? We're believing lies, and then we just kind of make another bad decision, and then another bad decision, and we kind of dig this proverbial hole. And the reality is that you can always come back from any of it with God because of his redemptive power, and how strong that idea is.
Yeah, I have a friend actually I was talking to this week about something along those lines, and you kind of, when you keep making the same mistake over again, your options are to maintain your conviction and develop more discipline and, do things to actually live in accordance with that conviction, or to just abandon it. And I feel like a lot of people just they just choose, if they keep messing up or they keep making a poor decision or they feel that shame, that guilt that you're talking about, sometimes the easier thing for people to do is to just change their conviction or change the way they think about it, which isn't actually best for them. It's really to just take the gift of grace from God, receive it, live in it by faith, and then move forward from it. Not change what you believe to be true, your convictions based on messing up over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and especially during this season where people can kind of maybe fall into depression a little bit easier, kind of give up a little bit easier just because of everything that's going on and the weight that people feel with COVID and the unrest in the world and other stuff, and just kind of being able to just kind of give in, like you're saying, rather focusing on the magnificent grace that God has for you and can give you when you actually decide to look to Jesus, right? As it says in the scriptures, to actually fix our eyes on Jesus rather than our mistakes, rather than our bad decisions, but actually look to him. We want to invite you guys to interact with us on that. Yeah, fill out the online Connect card, go to renewchurch.ca/connect, and you guys can respond to the message. There's different ways for you to interact on that online card, but if you anything came up during the message and you would like to interact with us or a pastor about that and get connected, we would love to talk to you. Or if you're new to our church and you just kind of got connected with us this morning, hey, reach out to us, fill out that online Connect card, and we would love to respond to you and figure out how you can get connected. One of the first things that's coming up, the way we can all get connected, is First Wednesday.
Yeah. So something that we're doing on a monthly basis now is a communion service together as a church on a live stream, and we're doing that on the first Wednesday of every month. And so that's why we called it First Wednesdays. So you can't really forget when it is, the first Wednesday of every month. And we're inviting you to tune in from your home. Originally, we were hoping maybe groups could get together and watch it together, and just based on some things now, that probably won't be happening. So we're saying, hey, take Wednesday nights and connect with the church and take communion together. Do this thing that Jesus told us to do together, which is to basically stop and recognize what he did for us and just kind of live that out and enact that. So we're going to be doing that alongside of a teaching series in the book of Acts. So it's a New Testament narrative teaching series that we're going to be launching this Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then we're actually going to create videos, discipleship videos to use in your groups on the other weeks of the month. And so they'll be kind of connected. So this Wednesday, there'll be a communion, but there'll also be a teaching portion on the book of Acts. And then we'll be providing you videos for your group to engage with throughout the month, well, throughout the next couple of months and that. So tune in with us this coming Wednesday.
Yeah, be looking forward to that. And would you continue to worship with us?
resurrection that we've waited for. You buried the night and came with the morning. You're the King of heaven. The praise is yours. The longer the quiet, the louder the chorus. Cause we will sing a new song. 'Cause death is dead and gone with the winner. We will sing a new song. Let hallelujahs flow like a river. We're coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime.
You're the living water, God, we thirst for you. The dry and the barren will flower and bloom.
You're the sun that's shining. You restore my soul. The deeper you call us, oh, the deeper we'll go. We will sing a new song. 'Cause death is dead and gone with the winner. We will sing a new song. Let hallelujahs flow like a river. We're coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime.
Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, I will grow. Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, I will grow. I will grow.
Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, I will grow. Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, I will grow. I will grow. I will grow. I will grow. 'Cause we'll sing a new song. 'Cause death is dead and gone with the winner. We will sing a new song. Let hallelujahs flow like a river. Coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime. Like springtime. Come tend the soil. Come tend the soil. Come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, I will grow. Come tend the soil. Come tend the soil of my soul, and like a garden, I will grow. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for singing with us this morning, and have a great week, Renew Church.
I want to thank Matt and the band for leading us in worship this morning.
Yeah, for sure.
It's good to have them back in studio. That song, man, especially like you sing that song when you're in spring and you're like, okay, I feel that. When you're singing that song and you're actually heading to the dead of winter, it's different. No, but for real though, it's quite different.
Yeah.
And I mean, Matt alluded to it. We're all really close to the Lehman family, and this is like the dead of the deadest winter for them right now.
Yeah.
And just to see them be expressing these kinds of sentiments and to sing it alongside them, like in the dead of the worst winter, God and his love really grows a garden in just the deadness of our soul. And it's this beautiful thing. And it's only God doing that, and it's only through faith that he does that. But to just be conscious of that happening in the lives of people around us, no matter what the season we're in, God does that work, no matter what season we're in. It could be the best season. We could be in the middle of summer right now. Everything could be perfect. We have the best job. Everything's going great for us. Or we could be in the darkest season of our life, and God does that work in our life, and only him. It's powerful to sing that. So
Yeah. I can't imagine walking through seasons without him and that power. I'm so proud of my friends, Josh and Kayla, for the way it seems as if they're handling it from a distance. Can't imagine the pain and the loss, but to be able to walk through it with a Heavenly Father, right? Have conversations with people who sometimes they attack the idea of God because like bad things happen, and my question back is, well, what's the alternative? So to walk, bad things happen without hope. Or bad things happen, but there's still hope, and they can be redeemed, and they can be used. Yeah. I'd much rather walk through life that way.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's what we keep doing what we're doing. We need the family of God to continue to remind us of that. God speaks through the church and ultimately through his holy word and the scriptures through the teaching of the apostles, and we're supposed to just gather in community and be reminded of those things over and over and over again, because it's really easy to kind of fall off of that. And so we want to continue to invite you to join us on Sunday mornings, join us in the things that we're doing. All of it is with a purpose. We hope that the Renew Kids Online thing went well today. We really, I don't know how it was for you, but we'd love the feedback. Any feedback is helpful, and so you can send that. You can use our emails or Connect Card or whatever you need to send that. We want to make sure that we can continue to improve that programming for our kids. We're excited to have launched that. Get your kids connected with the Maverick Youth Program like we've been saying. As hard as sometimes sitting in a Zoom call is, it's worth it to try. And that's the space where we are reminded of these truths, right? Where we sing them, we're reminded of that. And we need that. That brings life to our souls. And so don't neglect that.
It takes a little bit more work during the season to stay engaged, but put in that work and stay engaged. Even when you're zoomed out from work or whatever, like attend your Renew group over Zoom. Get your kids plugged into Maverick. Get connected to the Renew Kids Online programming. And there's actually, speaking of Zoom, there's actually one thing we're talking about doing is actually creating like a once a month big Zoom party for the kids. So like we're talking about this month doing some type of costume Zoom party because it's October and whatnot. And so be looking forward to that. And encourage the teams that are doing that, right? Like I saw some encouragement for Jake and for Anna and Liam on the comments. Keep doing that because there's teams that are working hard behind the scenes to make this stuff happen. Jake, all the other youth leaders as well. Anyone that you know, just send them a message and say, hey. And for the Renew Kids team, with Liam's put in a lot of work and Anna is. And then there's people behind the scenes like Eric and Merrick, and everything's just kind of working together as a team. So encourage them when you see them or when you see them on Zoom or when you send them a message.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. They need that. I mean, I've heard actually people say themselves verbally, I don't want to be the guy who has to do that or figure that out. Like people have said, like, I'm glad he's doing it. And I'm even, I'm the guy who I like to jump in on things and try to take control of them and figure them out. I like being that person. Yeah. But even now I'm looking at what the youth team's having to figure out, and now no longer being the youth leader and in charge, I'm kind of like, kind of glad I don't have to figure that out, because it's stressful. It's a lot of work. It's painstaking. You're thinking about it all the time. You're trying to make the best decisions because you do care. It's all in love.
Yeah, and the reality is there's no perfect option.
There's no perfect option.
And somebody's going to be aggravated by some decision that's made during the season. Right?
Yeah, and look, seminary doesn't teach you these things. No. Jake hasn't been to seminary yet, but they don't even teach you these things. No. So you could have the most qualified person in the world and they're trying to figure it out. So encourage them. They need to know that. And same with our kids programmers. Like they're working hard, trying to figure out how to engage your kids the best they possibly can. Encourage them with your word words, but then encourage them by participating and doing it along with them and being a support at home and downloading the parent queue and discipling your kids at home. Like, be a part of it, do it together. That's the best encouragement that you can provide to them in the season. So
Definitely.
It's good.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else we need to tell people about before we let them go?
We should keep pushing First Wednesdays. And I know we just did it during the middle of worship because it seemed relevant, but we need to keep doing it because we're going to be doing communion and we're going to be worshiping together. We're kicking off the Acts study, which I'm super excited about. We're going to be walking through the story of Acts in our Renew groups, and we're going to be doing it here every first Wednesday as well, and taking the communion together. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, and the reason why somebody asked, like, why don't you just pre-record it? Why are you doing it live? The reason why we're going to do it live is because we really do want to try to, as closely as possible, like, emulate the experience of taking communion together as a church. And we can't do that in person, but we're called as a church to gather together and to do this in community. And so we're going to do it online and we're going to do it live because it's better than just taking communion but not thinking that that's actually live happening. There's something about doing it together and leading together and knowing we're all doing this at the same time.
Yeah.
But if you do miss Wednesday, if you got something else going on Wednesday, and if you do miss it, but you'd still like to engage with it, or like most of your group can't tune in live on Wednesday, feel free to, as a group, watch it at another point live together at the same time and take communion. That's going to be okay. That's going to be available. We'll make sure that's available online. But if you can, be here or be present on Wednesday night and tune into the live stream and take communion with us. It'd be great.
Yeah. Make sure you got some bread and juice or whatever.
We do have some beloved guests who are going to be coming in, leading us in communion.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. You're going to miss these people, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also looking forward to jumping into Renew Group season. Some Renew Groups have started, some are just getting started in October. And even during the season, to kind of keep fostering that community and be back together as a church family in whatever way we can.
Yeah, you do need to be in contact with your Renew Group leaders because things are changing constantly. Like,
Yeah.
yesterday, things changed again, and our group has to change our plan. I just sent out an email to all of our group leaders in Milton, and we literally have to change our plan, what I told them all, because guidelines. So things are constantly changing. Stay in touch, be connected with them, know what's going on, and do everything you can to be participating in community.
Yeah. One more relevant thing, actually two more relevant things. The Lightning won the Stanley Cup. I'm pretty happy about that.
Who are the Lightning and
Should
why
have thrown
is that
that in.
relevant?
Should have thrown that in there.
Who are the Lightning, and why is that relevant?
Florida boy's got to get what he can, man.
Good for you, man.
Got to get what he can.
I know, it is embarrassing when a Florida team wins a hockey.
Yeah.
anything.
Guess what also happened? I think the Rays moved on in the...
I don't know who the Rays are. I don't know who they are either. It's weird. I don't know. Am I totally out of touch here, guys?
I feel like it's supposed.
Does anybody know who
We
these
can talk
teams
about
are?
sports, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've had a good season so far.
I know. I had to throw
It's an
it out
asterisk. None of it counts, right? I would be saying that
None
if
of it
Toronto
counts.
teams won too. I would
there.
say none
Sure,
of it counts. So
yeah, if the Raptors
we all
actually
agreed on
went
that.
on, and they were playing the finals right now, it'd be an asterisk, I'm sure.
It'd be an asterisk.
Yeah.
It'd be legit. Yeah. So
Be legit.
thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
My soul hurts a little bit more, but
Yeah.
the Lord will grow a garden in my soul if I hand Him over my faith and trust in my sports teams. I get that.
All right.
It's good. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for joining in with us. Thanks for tuning in. And we invite you to send a message to somebody today. Just encourage them. And we'll tune in with you guys Wednesday. It's gonna be great.
See you
Good
later.
stuff. See you.